What do you normally do on these things?
So let's get started. So what we normally do is this is what we call a biohacking social. So we usually sit with a group of people face to face, and we'll go around and just kind of talk about anything and everything biohacking. So anything about optimizing health. We'll go from like, I guess like level 1 biohacking, I would say, to like from like diet and nutrition. And then we work our way up to some things. We talk a lot about like EMFs, but we don't really get into a whole lot of like cybernetics, gene editing, that sort of thing. Not that that's off topic. We can do it. So what we're going to do today that's a bit different is I'd like to go around and just do introductions like we usually do. So I'll introduce myself, and then I'll give Rosie and Mark, you guys, a chance. And then I have a lot of questions for Christian, and he has a lot to share. So he's our special guest today. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him. So this is usually what happens when we get a new guest at our biohacking social. The usual like regular members are like, oh, we have a new person, so let's ask them all these questions. So they usually get bombarded with questions. So I'll ask questions, and Mark and Rosie, you're welcome to comment and ask questions as well. So we'll open it up, and I'll go ahead and start. So my name's Jason Ryer. I started the biohacking social here in Chiang Mai. It's actually called the Biohackers Chiang Mai, but part of a bigger biohackers collective around the world. So for me, it was actually kind of just like plug and play starting this out. James, the guy who was running this, he actually used to be here in Chiang Mai. I got to know him, and he basically just said, here you go, here's the materials to start the meetup. We were off and running. Well, not really. The first one was just me. Nobody showed up. And then we had 3 members, and then we had 7, and then we had like 15, and we got to as many as like 20 members for some of the meetups. And then it kind of died down as we got closer to the holidays. And since then, it's just been, a handful of people, more or less. And yeah, like I said, talking about anything and everything biohacking. I had one interesting meetup where it was just me and one other guy. I was sitting at the cafe where we used to meet up on the Ping River. And I'm like, nobody's going to show. And then there's this skinny Dutch guy. He was I think he's about 50 or 60 years old, 50 years old, I think. And, I was like, who is this guy? And, first my mind is like judging, like, who is this guy? Like, it's some crazy guy. And it was cool because I started talking to him. It turned out he used to be a professional boxer, and now he does like therapy, and he uses boxing as kind of therapy for his clients to get them moving. But he also has broken, I think, 2 world records for jumping rope, skipping rope, which is insane. Like, so I was talking to like a Guinness World Record holder who happened to come to one of our meetups. So it's fascinating to talk to some of these people. And we've had some really interesting people with really interesting stories. So my story, I come to this from, I've had my own health issues that I've had to deal with. And I tried, vegetarian, veganism for a couple of years, and eventually discovered Bulletproof. It was actually in a men's group where the guy said, he's like, hey man, check out the Bulletproof Executive. And I went from like plant-based over to, oh wow, like there's a bunch of like nuance here. And this is what was interesting to me about the Bulletproof Diet, was that it wasn't really simple, like eat vegetables, eat meat, or do this for ethical reasons. It was like, well, do it for your own health, right? So it was my own personal, I guess, egoistic interest. Like, I want to help myself. And yeah, it was about, where does the food come from? So really thinking about is not just, the macronutrients, proteins, carbs, et cetera. It was like, well, was it grown on healthy soil? If it's a plant, if it's an animal, what kind of plants did it eat, right? Did it eat what it's supposed to eat? And I think, as we know, cows aren't really meant to eat corn and soy, right? It makes them sick. So there was that nuance. And then plus, how is the food processed? So this was what was even more interesting to me. It was like, oh, well, if you cook the food, that changes it, right? And it changes the way we process and digest it. So some foods need to be processed to a certain extent. Some need to be cooked more than others, that sort of thing, right?
Like your kale.
Yeah, kale, yeah, it's kale. I'm like, why do people even eat kale? Like, to me, that's just like, well, I'd rather not waste my money on kale. I think there are other foods that I can choose. But yeah, for me, it was super fascinating. So I dove into this, like dove deep, so deep that I got certified as a bulletproof coach. So I went through like 1 year of training, and just kept going. So now I coach clients on all things bulletproof and life and health, and then I started an online course. I offer an online course on fasting, so using fasting as a tool to really clean up your diet, get control over your weight, and detox your body. So I know detox is kind of a buzzword, but there's real science behind what's going on in terms of when you're fasting.
But detox can mean, I mean, detox, when you fast, are you detoxing, or are you, let's say, doing other processes that not necessarily detox?
Yeah.
It's like autophagy
Yeah,
and
autophagy.
cell repair.
So that's exactly what I think of when I think of detox, is that, I mean, you're not really detoxing.
You're not thinking of chelating.
Right. You're not chelating toxins necessarily.
I think that's the criticism, right? When you say that you detox, oh, that's impossible.
And I'd say, detox, cleanse, these are just buzzwords.
Yeah.
But we explain it. Yeah. Autophagy, ketosis, these sort of things, and essentially just giving your body a chance to rest, to digest and do its thing, to clean up. I think is super powerful. I don't want to go too deeply into that, but I'll just say that, when people ask me, they say, hey, Jason, I have this health problem. Somebody has this health problem. I kept coming back to like, well, how often are you eating? Like not just what are you eating, but how often are you eating?
You don't ask when they eat?
So I would ask, how often and when?
And when,
yeah, exactly. So narrowing that time frame can be hugely beneficial. I think the secret that a lot of people miss, because intermittent fasting IF is super popular right now, right? And I think the thing that people miss is that they do it chronically. Like, I have to do 16/8 every day or else something's wrong, right? And they beat themselves up. And the problem with that is that if you're doing 16/8 every day, you might be eating less calories than your body needs. So running at a deficit. And you do that chronically, and you're going to slow down your metabolism. You're going to have some issues. So I take the intermittent part of it seriously, right? So you
how many days a week do you eat breakfast?
You should have some days where you have more calories. So some days I eat breakfast, and I'm not very strict on it. I had my bulletproof coffee at like 8 a.m. this morning, which was like super early for me. Usually I don't.
Oh, that's super late.
I don't have anything until like 10 a.m. But I was like, I just felt like having it, and I had like a late dinner last night. Had some friends over. I even had a glass of wine, which I don't usually do. But all that to say that I have some flexibility in what I do. So now, like I said, I lead the biohacking meetup here in Chiang Mai. Today we have some guests. I see Mark, Rosie, and Christian here. So thank you all for joining us. So what I want to do is go around the room and the virtual room and hear from you guys. And Rosie, since you were on first, and I'll say ladies first, if you can hear me and you haven't gotten too distracted, can you just share what got you into biohacking and what brings you to this group?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm sorry, I am having a problem with getting back on the Zoom, so there's the camera, okay.
We never experience such problems in our days.
There she is.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see
you, Rosie.
Hey. So anyway, biohacking, well, the health, the food part has just been, part of my life for, probably more than 2 decades. Eating organic food, free range, all of what you mentioned, Jason. And then got into working with aminos, and of course now.
So Rosie, you mentioned aminos. Like, I think the longer expression for that is targeted amino acid therapy, right?
You got it.
To that extent, right? Where you're using, yeah. If you want to explain it, you can. You do it.
Huh?
Go ahead and tell us more about that for a minute.
Well, I really started getting into it because I had concerns about memory stuff. Like, I'm 74 and my father died of Alzheimer's and suffered for many, many years before crossing over. And I, when I became aware of that there were these possibilities of working with the targeted aminos, I got some help to do that, and did some reading, and I find that that's been helpful, although I still, in terms of short-term memory, have not found a sequence of doing it that has really engaged with that in the way that feels optimal for me. The other thing that has been really helpful to me, it feels like a biohack, is, of course, I've been itinerant for 3 years, and putting yourself in different places with different people and different ideas and exploring different things is an amazing way to constantly generate new pathways in your body and more interesting living. And I find that, I'm also very much interested in having the best water, the best air, kind of the really basics. And when I was living in Hawaii, where I was for 10 years, I had the best water in the house where I lived that probably anyone on earth has, unless they are by and drinking directly from a spring. But had the best water and had it filtered and structured and was catchment water. And of course, the big island of Hawaii has very good air. I am loving the fact that I made the decision to be on Koh Phangan at this time, because over and above the, skipping out on the terrible air you guys are suffering with, because bodies suffer with my body really suffered I came here on the 19th of February, and I was suffering all of February and part of January already. And I just kind of listed for a friend what it's like here in lockdown. We're in lockdown, and I'm hearing that, like, it's really serious in Chiang Mai. Like, businesses, restaurants are closing. They're taking the furniture out. And here, it's really different. Like, there's restaurants that are saying, if you're low on funds, you're struggling to eat, let us know, we'll make you a free meal. And there's at least 25, 30 restaurants that are doing takeout and delivery, all the places. And I was living, I'm not now, but I was living in a place with absolutely no kitchen. So all my eating was done out, and I'm very strong on organic. And so I've just kind of become vegetarian here. It just sort of emerged that way, but it's
interesting.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, I just said that's interesting. So yeah, just to reflect, I mean, yeah, water is hugely important. Air is really important, and like the bigger context. I mean, I'm just thinking in case other people watch the recording for this or whatever. Yeah, we're here in Thailand, and we're in northern Thailand in Chiang Mai, where the smoke is bad. We're in burning season, and Rosie, in the south, in the islands. So
Yeah.
you're free of that clean air,
Small
but you're
island.
dealing with other issues around. I mean, coronavirus with businesses shutting down, and that's led you to become more vegetarian. That's
Well,
interesting.
it just kind of happened. Like I didn't have the access. I ate a lot of fish in Chiang Mai, and I just haven't. Kind of the squid is the big thing they fish for off the island, and I tried it once, and it was like, yeah. But it just like we don't have like rimping. I don't. The grocery stores just they're not good here.
But you
But
have Healtholicious and Paleo Robbie and these guys, they deliver to your door overnight. Boom, you can get everything.
say that again.
No, I use a company called Healtholicious. I would say it's Healtholicious. So like delicious, but Healtholicious. And they have I think it's healtholicious.com, I guess.
Yeah.
And they have like the best customer service. It's so good. I modeled my own company's customer service on them, and they deliver overnight, and you can get like yak bone-based collagen powder delivered on your door within 30 hours.
Yeah, I can
vouch for that chaga powder with the reishi.
Customer service is amazing.
It's amazing.
For me, like I was a big fan of Healtholicious. Yeah.
And what was the other thing you mentioned?
Paleo Robbie. That's an online delivery service from Bangkok, and I'm thinking right now, if you're in Penang, I'm guessing they deliver, and then they have another one called Passion Delivery.
I think it's getting things delivered right now is more challenging.
No, even yesterday I got mine. We got. I have not experienced any disruptions in delivery.
Yeah, I've had delays from Lazada, and I've had cancellations if they're shipping from China, which makes sense with everything going on. But Paleo Robbie ships everywhere in Thailand. Same with Healtholicious.
You have Smokehouse here in Chiang Mai. I think he ships too.
Oh, that's
really?
Great.
Interesting.
So it's Paleo Robbie.
Yep. PaleoRobbie.com.
Spell Robbie.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the notes. I'm not taking notes, but I'll watch this again. Yeah.
They're supposed to take notes.
Yeah,
You're supposed to have show notes.
Yeah.
I think.
Who's my note taker here? I'm kidding. Usually at the meetups, I have my notebook and I take notes. I have it here, but I think my mind is getting sharper as the day goes on. Just being around you guys is making my mind work better.
Yeah, the five people you surround yourself with, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Rosie, anything else?
Robie.
I
think there's a double B there.
Yeah, 2 B's.
Okay,
I'll make sure you get that.
R-O-B-I. No.
Anything else you want to share?
Well, one thing I want to share that it is absolutely delightful here that while, we have the 10 to 4 curfew, no alcohol from 11 to 17, a week. And that a lot of the beaches are closing down at 6 o'clock and, the restaurants are closed, that regardless of all of this, and even there are police by the main 7-Eleven when I go in the evening, I always get to the beach. I generally am eating at a sit-in restaurant on the beach that has signs on the table that it's only for residents who live on the beach, but I'm always served there. And I get to walk barefoot in the sand and swim in the ocean and find a place to park my bike that gives me the access that they can't close down because it's the access that the people who live on the beach use. So I am connected with people who continue to hug and continue to gather in small groups and have meaningful connection. And I feel like that is the basis of, the kind of social connection that's generative is just, I've dialed it in. Good air, good folks, good food. And now with the online stuff you're telling me about, I'm upping the game. Thank you.
Yeah, that's hugely important, the connection. So thank you for bringing that up, especially in these times of social isolation.
Oh my God.
So good for you.
I'm guessing Rosie is even considering to cancel the half moon party coming up soon. What are your thoughts on that?
All those parties
I think she's going to go. She's leading the way. It's
like we are having the connection. It's just happening,
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Mark, do you want to jump in there? And I guess the question that I want to ask is what got you into, I guess, this group, but kind of like biohacking and health and wellness. If you want to give us a bit of background where you're coming from on this.
Okay, so my story is I've had type 2 diabetes since 2006. Tried numerous things, read every author about every approach to diabetes. End up losing 4 jobs through the whole process. Then I came back to something that I'd read early on when I first got diagnosed, which was fasting. And so I went to a guy called Dr. Berg, who's a chiro in America. And I set out to do keto. And along the way, he said, well, you can do IF as well as part of it. So once I did IF and keto, I actually thought the fasting was having more of an effect than the keto, because I used to cheat a lot on the keto.
I think a lot of people have that same challenge on keto. They try to do keto, but they end up not really doing keto.
They do high fat, low sugar, but not real keto.
Yeah, and they're not really getting into ketosis and getting the benefits. I had a friend actually who ended up getting non-alcoholic fatty liver disease from going keto because he later figured out that he was doing it wrong. And yeah, it's serious. So you got to be careful with that one, for sure.
Anyway, but I found I've never tested. I've got a few devices. I've got a blood device and also had which I should try again actually, a blood device and also a breath tester for keto.
There you go.
And
let's see how
we can do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I found is that actually a lot of my symptoms, which caused my job losses, a lot of those things reduced. So I get my brain fog disappeared, which is obviously fantastic for thinking, especially on being in computing like Jason was, and I sort of still am. But at least, obviously being able to think is or think clearly is obviously good. My mood improved. My energy came back. Once you've got those things going, you feel like walking around, then you start to exercise a bit more because you actually enjoy it. I found when I was in Chiang Mai walking around like 4 to 5 or 6 kilometers a day, that was actually better for me. Now that I'm in lockdown, I've become a bit bloody lazy, so I've got to go back out and walk a lot more because that's also my blood glucose level's gone back up since I've self-isolated, so I need to get out there and keep walking.
Let's do a nitric oxide release together.
Oh yeah, we could do that. I just did that on a talk that I gave the other day.
Yeah.
On dealing with stress and anxiety and loneliness. We did one round of Wim Hof, and then we did the nitric oxide dump, which was, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Like getting everybody to
do you know that one?
No, I've done the Wim Hof breathing once with Jason. I did the ice bath. That freaked me out a bit, the ice bath. But
yeah. But you did it.
I did it, but my bloody nerves were going crazy. I can tell you, my nerve endings were going mental.
Yeah. Well, something I've learned about that is that actually the cold, if you're diabetic and you get in the cold, it actually raises your blood sugar. So that can actually be problematic for people who are diabetic. So I think that was part of what you were feeling, probably, was kind of like this blood sugar response.
K2,
part of
K2.
Yeah.
Vitamin K2.
K2?
Yeah.
With
today I was reading a paper from PubMed.
K2?
That's butter, right? Vitamin K2. And that's what you get from consuming butyric acid, aka butter.
Butter. Yeah.
You know the Weston A Price guy, the dentist in the 30s who traveled around the world? He wrote a book called something degenerative something. And in that book, he discovers, what do you call it? Compound X or something X, and that's later discovered is vitamin K2. So he traveled around the world and he saw indigenous populations, especially like outside of Scotland and in Russia, many places where you can take what he called a stock of people, and you can divide them by, some of them have been interacting with missionaries, some of them have been untouched by the Western world. This was like, from the late 19th century. So he came and he checked and he saw that all the people that interacted with us, basically with the British, they had fucked up teeth and jaw linings and everything. But the other guys, they had no problem at all. And he went all around the world and he found that there's one substance X, he called it. And that suppresses insulin. And that's, so that's why that's why Asprey is so crazy on the butyric acid.
Right.
And butter is not only the fatty acid, but it's the vitamin K2.
Interesting.
And apparently it's the traffic police of the calcium.
So wait, I don't understand then the connection between the interaction with the white people. Like
because the white people came with flour, sugar, bread.
I see. Okay, so it wasn't just, it was like introducing the processed diet.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah, so and now there's something called Weston A Price Foundation.
Yeah.
Sally Fields. So she has been she was the one that really attacked the China study book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a fight between the China study people and the Weston A Price.
The China study, like I bought into that one.
Me too. That's why I became
having health problems. I watched the documentary called Forks Over Knives, and it was all about the benefits, and they kept referencing the China study.
I read the book.
To me, I was like, oh wow, these people really know what they're talking about. Like, if I stop eating meat, my life's going to be better. Everything's going to be better. Like, I'm not going to get cancer. I'm going to have more testosterone. My libido is going to go up, all these things.
Earth is saved.
And I believed it. Yeah, I'm going to save the planet. And a lot of people, unfortunately, still believe that. And it's spreading. Like,
but now there's a new movie that's even better than Knives Over Fork. You know, The Game Changers.
Well, Game Changers, yeah.
They upped the ante.
It, yeah.
It's the same movie. It's exactly the same movie.
Oh, really?
It's just upped the ante. Yeah, it's the same guy. It's the son of Gladwell. It's the son of the Campbell, who is the firefighter, right? Oh, so he's the same guy from Forks Over Knife, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah.
But I watched that movie now, like a few months ago, and like, damn, I was almost convinced.
Yeah, it makes you want to go vegetarian.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
but then afterwards, like,
I've heard about it because I've talked to people, and they're like, well, "What about these athletes? Like, they're vegetarian and they're competing at the highest level."
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And I'm like, well, yeah, there are people who are doing that, but how long is that going to be sustained? And my question is, what supplements are they taking? Because these are high-level athletes. They're not, almost guarantee, they're not just doing a pure.
The strongest man in the world is there.
They're taking some kind of supplements.
Yes,
they must be.
Of course.
They must be.
And you know, if you take growth hormone or steroids once, what happens to your nuclei in your muscles? They don't disappear. So you can train yourself huge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That's what Greenfield and all these guys figuring out. So you had the muscle once. So that muscle memory is not just like a field thing. It's an actual cellular thing.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So these guys that then that can come back later.
Wow. Cool.
Anywho, sorry.
Anyway, Mark, do you have anything else? We got distracted there.
So I was going to say, he asked Christian if I've read that actually eating lots of butter is a good thing to do. So that if it gives you K2, the other thing I think you need is D3, specifically D3. So, and that's what my mate Dr. Eric Berg is always banging on about.
Yeah.
You've got to have
Ideally,
that's the cheapest and easiest to get, right?
Get it from the sun.
Sunshine.
Yeah, for sure. Get it
Like
from the sun.
D3,
That's the way to get it.
sunshine.
Get it from the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, but like 10 minutes or 5 minutes naked midday.
Yeah, I do like 30 minutes.
Midday, yeah, because you want that UV, right? You want the 270 to 80 kind of nanometer.
Yeah, you get
there.
the UVB during the middle of the day. That gives you the vitamin D production. It actually makes you feel
So
good.
got to be naked, is that right?
I have to be naked. If not, you're completely losing out.
Well, that's where they take it to the extreme. They're like, well, you get this huge like testosterone boost if you get the light directly on your junk. And so everybody's like, not everybody, but a lot of people are following this and like, oh, I have to do it. Unfortunately, Czar's not on the call.
Yeah, I was expecting Czar to.
He would tell us about his experiences doing this. Do
you do what do you call it? Where do you lift the legs?
No.
Butt chugging?
No, I haven't.
Really?
No.
Well, I do that. Yeah, sure. But not for a long time, just for a couple of minutes.
So just describe this for our audience of two.
Yeah, I'll describe this for the audience of two. So you remove your aforementioned clothes, find an area, preferably like what I do. I have some chairs that block the main view from the neighbor.
Okay.
I use one of those three chairs I put up there.
Some kind of privacy.
And then you sit down and you lay down on your yoga mat and you kind of look around a little bit and then you drop the pants and then legs up, facing the sun. But you can't do this for very long because the tissue down there is
sensitive.
Yeah, very sensitive. But if you do it just a little bit, I think that's the most hipster way of enjoying sun these days.
Wow, interesting. The hipster way.
You get sun where it's not supposed to shine.
Yeah. So you're increasing your testosterone, right? So we already said you get vitamin D3. You're boosting serotonin.
Yes.
Which makes you feel good. And you're boosting melatonin as well, which is going to help you sleep at night. So there are 4 reasons right there to get some sunshine. So, and we're fortunate enough here to be in a tropical environment where we get that beneficial sun.
How do you do it in the morning? So in the morning, I get up the same time every day because I believe in circadian rhythm and I believe in not screwing it up in the weekend. So
What time? What time do you get up?
Like a little bit after 6.
Okay.
That's when the sun sort of starts to, not sun, but the light is coming.
Right.
And then at my house right now, it's about 6:50, 6:55. The sun is shining. Yeah. So then I sit outside or I lay on a yoga mat for about 1 hour in the sun.
Oh, wow.
So that's where I do most of my reading.
Wow.
And then I turn around a little bit cool. and I do it because I force my family to do it. If I don't do it, they don't want to do it.
They do it with you?
Yeah, now they do it with me.
Oh, cool. That's cool. That's a cool practice. I just, for me, unfortunately, I don't have like a hill or anything to go to. So I wait until about, I think it's around 7 o'clock. I can start to see the sun come up over the horizon, now behind somebody's house. But I make it a point to get up, and one of the first things I do is go outside. Walk around, I'll do some movement, some basic exercises, with my shirt off. And the neighbors, there's an apartment building next door. They can all see me, but I'm sure they think I'm crazy.
That's karma points. Maybe
we do a lot of crazy things.
Shower.
Yeah, we do the ice baths and we're like yelling and grunting sometimes. So the neighbors already, they all think I'm crazy. But yeah, sun, and then you get sun in the evening as well, right?
Yes.
Sun
golden
morning,
hour,
midday, evening, right?
Yes.
Cool. Can you click on the chat right there?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
gonna see what's going on there. I think think Mark shared some things. Yeah, D3 and K2. So we need vitamin D and lots of butter. Will this give D3? Yeah, and if actually vitamin E will help with the production of D3. Vitamin A, vitamin E. So vitamin A from like liver meat. I think is vitamin A in oysters as well, shellfish. But
not so sure about that portion here though, but
yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, you get the right vitamins, you get the sun, you're gonna get a ton of energy from it. So I'm curious, going on to you.
We sort of.
Oh,
Mark was still going, right?
Mark. Sorry.
Oh, no,
you have anything
that's
else?
basically it. I mean, that's basically it. I just so I came here originally to try to do work on some project where we could measure blood glucose by some device under your skin or something like CGM.
Continuous blood glucose monitor. Yeah. Okay.
Like didn't Google make one contact lens that can do that?
Really?
Apple.
I heard something about that.
Apple.
Oh, Apple, sorry.
Okay.
I tried to, but nothing's. There's been many things. There's been a UK company did. There's a. You can take a camera photo of the skin, and they can use the color variations to measure blood sugar. But that company came up. They had an app which was an alpha release of the app, and then it went away. So there's nothing's ever come of that really. Maybe it never will. I don't know.
When you say you came here to work on that, in what capacity? As a researcher, as an investor, as a...
I sort of retired. I'm semi-retired, but I just thought I wanted a few projects. So one of my projects would be diabetes generally and blood glucose measurement specifically. The other one's just more generally autism, which is a pretty big topic. But
really, you should stop by our office.
Where's
we work
that?
on this. We work. My company called Recharge, and we work with Dr. Leslie Parkinson in the UK.
Yeah.
And she's one of the leading clinical neuropsychologists in the UK. She's a member of 2 Royal Societies, and she works in the autism field. She works with neurofeedback, and she works also with red light therapy that we make. So she's an advisor in our company because she was also reading studies, and she found that using I call it red light therapy because that's what our marketing department tells me to call it. Photobiomodulation.
Right.
Is maybe the more proper word in this context. And so she wanted to use photobiomodulation on the stomach, photobiomodulation on the brain, and then do neurofeedback, and especially on autism patients. And we're basically in the middle of it now. We have the hardware, we have prototypes, we have all the frequencies, we have Leslie is on board. She's also one of our shareholders. And yeah, so we are working literally on that issue now.
Specifically for autism.
Yeah, not only autism, but also like what Rosie mentioned, you have neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's. And what they believe is that they can, both of those diseases can benefit from better activity in the gut, so lower inflammation. Autism is, okay, I'm not a doctor, so whatever I say, you should of course take with like 6 ounces of salt. But it's an issue of inflammation.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, and what I call red light therapy or photobiomodulation or low-level laser therapy is one of the main factors. Actually, the only thing we can say, according to FDA, without doing clinical trials, is that it reduces inflammation. So I cannot say that my product reduces inflammation, but I can say red light therapy and photobiomodulation has been proven to reduce inflammation. Yeah. So yes, we are working on specifically the autism case.
Cool.
And we're using red lights and near infrared lights on the brain, on the tummy, together with neurofeedback.
Yeah. And Mark has a cool story, if you want to share, about your children who were autistic, and from what I understand,
our CTO has
you turned them
ADHD.
around with diet primarily.
Yeah, I mean, so I must have ADD. I've got ADD, absolutely, because I can't bloody concentrate to save myself at the moment. And it varies drastically by diet. So now that my diet's not so good, it's actually, I mean, I'm struggling at the moment. But so I had two boys. I had two boys with ASD when I was in the UK, and one was diagnosed at 2, and he had classic autism, where he speaking quite happily until 2, and then speaking drops off, and communication drops off in sort of like almost in over the space of about a month. It just disappears. And so we had that. We went to speech therapy and various other therapies. We started lots of different therapies. Then we had the second boy, and he didn't talk at all. So we went to another speech therapist when we went back to Australia, and she said he's not going to speak ever. So that really got us fired up. So we spent 4 years doing every intervention possible. And as far as I can tell, one's in 4th year university. He's 21. The other one's a normal teenager who just likes to play games.
So you're a biohacker. You're a real biohacker.
Yeah, he biohacked his family, his children. That's cool.
And that's the point. That's the whole.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Mark. Well, yeah. I want to turn it over then to Christian, and same question. What brings you here? But unfortunately, with Christian, as much as I tell him like you got to come to our meetups, you got to come. I think he finally said like I'm not really going to leave like my neighborhood, right? He's got a lot going on here. Yeah. He's busy. Makes sense. So we were talking the other day, and you were in your studio. We were talking online, right? And you were showing me your cool studio, and then I was like, well, why not do a biohacking meetup here?
Yes.
So here we are, in person. Hopefully when this coronavirus lifts, we can do this more without, I guess, the worries and restrictions of everything going on.
But that could be a while.
It could be a while. I mean, who knows? But yeah, my question for you is the same question. Like what got you into biohacking, and what's kind of your story into this world?
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Christian. I'm originally from Norway. I'm 42. I have 2 wonderful children and a wife that is Thai. So we've been married for 14 years, hence the Thailand location right now. We used to live in China, so I'm a classic like China business guy. So I came there 20 years ago and started doing import and manufacturing, and then servicing European and American companies that wanted to move the very noble task, that wanted to move their manufacturing overseas. Not so noble task, actually, but
depends how you look at it, right?
Well, now I can see that I was not a very nice agent to the whole situation, but of course you don't see that when you're in that situation. I can just see that, okay, they're competing with these companies, their cost is too high, so my job was to set up manufacturing abroad, basically. So I was living in China since I was living there since 2008, but since 2000 I was there for maybe 3-4 months out of the year. And after living there permanently for a couple of years, I had what I thought was like a near-death experience. I had a gallbladder inflammation. So I was home one day and I was sitting there with my wife and like, what the fuck? It's like I don't know if you had it. Like, no. So my gallbladder went haywire, and I was rushed over to the hospital in China in like 2009 or something. Not a very pleasant thing. Came in there, they did all the tests, they figured out it's this gallbladder thing. I had to stay home for a month getting down my inflammation, then back in, and they took it out. So before they took my gallbladder, I was also checking online in Norway, and my doctors were like, yeah, gallbladder is no problem. You don't need that stuff. It's just there, and you know, bile, and you just don't eat meat, don't eat animal fat, then you're completely fine. So I became a vegetarian too, like you. Yeah. And I was introduced to the China Study, the book, by some friends of mine who are vegetarians, and they are Baha'i, if you know their religion, Baha'i. No. It's a super cool religion. It's like they have their own Jesus and everything. So I was like, okay, yeah, wow. And I read the whole China Study. Yeah. And that's a big book. And like, wow. And I was stupid at the time because, of course, I lived in China. So I should have known that, of course, you can't trust any Chinese numbers. So, but anyway, I became a vegetarian. So for 7 years, I was eating, 7 times a day. I was exercising about 1 hour a day. I was doing kite surfing I was living on the beach. And I was eating and eating and eating. It was ridiculous. And then one day I heard Bulletproof guy, Dave Asprey.
Why were you eating so much? Why 7 meals a day?
Because, well, I couldn't get full. I got full, right. But I was eating fruit and vegetables and these shakes and oatmeal. And so I had to eat every 2-3 hours. That's, I think it was also because that's what we learned when I grew up, that if you want to be big and strong and lean, you should eat every 2-3 hours to keep the metabolism going, that kind of stuff.
That's the myth we teach in the fasting program.
Yeah, it's like oh.
No, you don't have to eat all the time to keep your metabolism going. Yeah. That's a myth.
Yeah, I thought that. So I had my own gym. I have my own gym at my office, and I also have it here, using that for an hour a day. Today is shoulder day and calf day and eating before and drinking protein, pea protein.
All the bro science. Right?
Yeah.
Bodybuilders in the gym. Yeah.
And then I heard about Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof guy, on a super weird podcast about the history of the Jesus conspiracy. Anywho, that's where I heard about him first time. And he's like, no, that's just bullshit. You can eat fat, but you can't eat fat from these things and these things, but you can do it from coconut oil and butter. So I'm like, biohacker, eh? Never heard of it. Right. So I tried and it worked. I tried more and now I've done it for almost.
So how did that work for you without the gallbladder? You had to take enzymes along with it? No,
not with the Bulletproof. If I eat a big meal, then I take enzymes with it. I take bile and all that stuff.
Right.
But the Bulletproof, if I don't make it super big, because I have a constant drip of bile going into my intestine, right? I don't have the gallbladder to contain it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But there's constantly a little.
So it's still
there's some shit going on there.
Okay.
So I can drink like today. I only have Bulletproof. Right. Yeah. So that was my background. I was like, okay, convinced. Then I also want to be a biohacker because I didn't have the same issues as you with brain fog properly. But I always wanted to be. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm the classic. Okay, I want to run marathons, and I want to work 19 hours a day and all that kind of stuff, right? So I went into it from the performance perspective, I would say, which I now realize is not something you can actually keep going, 7 days a week on that. So then I started going into more of the spiritual stuff and the meditation and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that was my background.
Cool. Very cool.
And then we made a red light therapy product. Company.
Yeah.
So that's based on the biohacking, basically.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So yeah, what I guess what's the story behind that then? Kind of like the genesis of where we are now. We're in recharge, right? Recharge, and what would you call recharge?
It's a brand. We're a company. We're a brand. We do everything from research all the way through to web sales. So we have our own products. We have our own, as you know, about 20 guys here, electronics developers, mechanical engineers. We have PhDs in biofeedback, medical doctors, scientists, and electrical engineers. So we design products and we work with basically personalized, intelligent energy.
Okay.
So it's not woo-woo. So it's energy either in the form of photons or what we should call them. Yeah, let's call them light. We have electricity. We have electromagnetic frequencies, EMF, like you guys are probably very scared of, but the EMF or PEMF is also used in medicine.
Yep. Using EMFs for good. Yeah.
Yes. And we're working with, scalar technology, not scalar, but Scannar.
Scannar. I don't even know what that is. What is that?
That is, it's a Russian technology originally, but it's diagnosing using small jolts of electricity and measuring the feedback that you get back from the tissue. So you can measure impedance and capacitance in tissue to see where you are more or less inflamed.
Okay.
And on top of that, you can have carrier waves with frequencies, and you can sort of go in and interact with molecules in their sphere, in their frequency vibrational sphere.
Is this what they're offering? Because I went to a place in Chiang Mai called Absolute Health, and they had this whole kind of like, I don't even know what they called it. Maybe it was similar to that, but doing some kind of test.
No, they were doing a quantum machine.
I don't even know what it was, but it was quite expensive. And I'm like, well, I'm like, that it sounded interesting, but I'm like, well, what are they going to, if they say there's something going on in my system, like what's the intervention, or like, is there something you can really do about it? I don't know. So
hey,
I'm
listen,
wondering,
please
have
remind
you had
me.
this done, and what did you learn?
Okay, so yes, I have had that done.
Okay.
This is the realm of what they call quantum, what do they call it? Quantum machines, or so yes, I have had it done. You sit down and you have electron on each hand, and after a while it prints out a graph, right? And it can tell you how many vitamin D you have and what's your liver function and how active your kidneys are and all that stuff, right? So number one, I have no idea how it works. Number two, no, we don't do that. But number three, I can hook you up with guys that make these machines and design them, and can tell you the whole background, because I am, let's say, a quantum virgin. I have been forced to study quantum theory and quantum mechanics because of what we work in the field we work. We work in basically the mother of all quantum. We work in light, and light, that's where the word quantum comes from. The quanta of energy as a photon. But I also have to say I'm cautiously skeptical to most of the quantum stuff. Skeptical, not I don't say it's bullshit, but it's like you have to, at least in my opinion, you have to go down a couple of assumption holes and I might be wrong.
You might call that a little like woo-woo, a little bit out there for. I mean,
this is so difficult because
especially in terms of like mainstream medicine. Yes. I mean, as biohackers, we're already getting off that track. But well, you can go pretty far off that track, I suppose.
That machine is not so woo-woo because, you know, Fritz Pop and biofeedback is used in Germany in hospitals. You can go there, and a lot of the MRI technology and these technologies, they are super woo if you look at it, but it's real stuff. But if you want to go really woo, you want to go over to the field of non-local healing, where you have a machine and you sit somewhere else, and the machine just works on your aura or something.
Yeah.
That stuff is.
Well, I've been recently introduced to the world of muscle testing. Have you done any of this? So it's one of these things where basically I would just put my arm out here, and the person testing it would put pressure on it after they ask me a question. So where you start with this is you would ask me, is your name Jason Ryer? And you'd push and it would go down, right? Because that's a yes, right? And then you'd say, is your name George Hernandez? And push, and it resists because that's a no, right? And so people practice this whole muscle testing, and they have these basically these diagrams, and they follow like a bunch of questions they can ask, yes or no questions, to dive down into like childhood traumas and all these things. It's fascinating stuff, but to me, it's like,
I think I've seen Randy debunk that a couple of times.
I was super skeptical about it because the woman who did it here in Chiang Mai, I'm like, I don't really feel like you pressing any differently. Like,
and did you stand on magnets?
I felt like she was controlling it. Well, the magnets came in for the healing part of it. So once they identify the issue, you rub the magnets along your head while you chant like positive affirmations or say positive affirmations. I mean,
you know what? You shouldn't. Have you studied the water molecule and how the Japanese are, having good intentions or bad intentions, and they get different results when they freeze water, for instance.
I haven't seen that one, no. But
Or out in yeah.
Emoto, sure.
Yeah, sure. And not only him.
Old stuff.
Yeah. Very old stuff. Very old stuff.
He's already passed on.
Yeah, and Benveniste, you're also familiar with the French.
I don't know him.
He well, let's see who started. It was two guys. I think Benveniste is the guy who's leading the project now with the water memory.
Oh yeah, I mean, I want to say something about Jason and the kinesiology.
Like the muscle testing, right?
The muscle testing, you're introducing it incorrectly, so I just want to correct you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Please do.
So, I mean, I use muscle testing all the time, but I do it in a different way. Like I ask my body things, and like if I'm sitting, well, it was just interesting. I was looking at a menu for some raw food that I'm wanting to order, and they had pictures, and I'm going down with the pictures, and it's funny, my body, you know, the ones it wanted, it was just like really, you know, I want this one, yes. But with the arm thing, so when you're getting a positive response, your arm is strong. And if you're getting a negative response, you can't hold that strength and the arm goes down. So
other way around. I had it backwards, right?
Well, yeah, I just want to clarify that because it could be really confusing if you decided you wanted to check out more with it. But it's like that's a common thing that's been going on in various cultures for, I don't know.
Is it the same as this one? If like I know some Reiki friends, they use some kind of wiggling with the hand to figure out if they're subconscious, either subconscious or some kind of field connection. Says yes or no. Is that the same?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. I just know that the muscle testing or the asking of the body, if you are, you know, centered in your body, like a lot of times people can be somewhere out there and not really in their body, that it gives you, it lets your body express itself about what is about the body. So I don't know if that is the same thing or not. But I use the...
It sounds similar, but maybe a different practice, but you're still using your body to get some kind of signal.
Yeah, like gut. Either it's a gut thing, like a gut feeling, like a subconscious feeling, or our CTO here, he claims to connect with past spirits. Really? Yes, and wow. in particular, one electrical genius that used to live. And wow. So I'm scared of being too critical for weird stuff.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, I've seen so much crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I used to my thinking around this has changed dramatically over the past few years. Where I used to be like skeptical about everything, like especially religion. I'm just like, oh, that's all BS. But I've come around to like, well, there's so much that we don't understand, that we don't know, that who am I to say like what's right and what's wrong? So when you come back to like the muscle testing, I'm like, I think for people who use it and think it works, I think it works for them. And that's part of it, is the psychology behind it. Like if you think something works, then who am I to say that it's right or wrong?
It's as real as it is unreal, as they say in the Tibetan kind of thinking.
Yeah. But anyway, to get back to recharge and what you guys are doing here. So it sounds like my initial thinking when I heard about recharge, I was like, oh, it's just red light therapy, no big deal. Everybody's doing that these days. And then I came in here and Christian gave me a tour and started explaining. I'm like, whoa, like
yeah, it's quite different.
Have a lot of like bright people working here, and you're doing a lot of different things, which is really cool.
I can show. I can do a little show and tell and see what we are cooking here.
Sure. So Christian, I think he's going to get one of the devices, but I don't know how much he can share in terms of what they have in the works in terms of like research and development. So we'll see. All right, here it is. Okay, yeah, here comes the device.
Yeah, so in the industry we like to call it photobiomodulation because it sounds more fancy and it has an acronym.
Mm.
But in marketing we call it red light therapy.
Right.
And I think part of the reason is SEMrush and keyword spend and search results.
Right.
So red light therapy was a more accepted mainstream word for it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So does everybody here know what red light therapy or photobiomodulation sort of is? Or should I do a crash course?
Look it up in Wikipedia.
If you can do if you can do like
I'll do a quick
explanation.
Yeah. Okay. So what we have realized now, because of all the marketing research that we had to do to sell it, is that the theory of using light to heal goes back, millennia. So helio therapy has been used for either accidentally or knowingly. So one of the latest expressions of it is, maybe you've seen on Twitter, they talk about the last pandemic in 1918 with the Spanish flu. They saw great results by putting people outside. So they get some sun and they get some fresh air. And then I believe it was in the 70s, I might be a little bit off here, but in the 70s, the space people, NASA and the Japanese and these guys that were going to outer space, they figured out that we have a problem with atrophy, muscle atrophy and recovery. And there's a lot of things that goes wrong when you're in a non-gravity environment. You don't get the same pressure and pushes on your muscle, and you don't get to exercise, so you wither away. So they started looking at working with physicists that had just discovered lasers. So the ruby lasers and all, in the 60s. So they understood that the light could interact with the body. They didn't maybe really understand the why and how. I don't know if they were into the cytochrome C and the whole thing, but they started using red light in the form of lasers, coherent light, to stimulate tissue. And then this technology, it sounds a little bit crazy, but the Iron Curtain in Europe with the Soviets and the Eastern Europe created a divide between Western medical science and sort of the Eastern medical science. When I say Eastern, I mean Eastern Europe. So they became much more obsessed with this non-pharmacological approach in the Eastern Europe than in Western Europe. Interesting. So a lot of this EMF and PEMF and Scannar and laser, a lot of this actually came out of Russia and the former Soviet states. Then fast forward till like today, there is a company in England called Thor Labs or Novo Thor, and they are led by a guy called James Carroll. He's like, he's working with Congress, and he's like a proper business. Yes. And then fast forward to my Dave Asprey awakening. When I heard about Bulletproof, this is like 10 years ago almost, I also came across his podcast, so I started following him, and I'm like, oh fuck, I love this shit. So I got the first little up the nose. Have you ever tried that? Right? Yeah, like Violite have one, but this is a generic product you can buy all over the internet. And it's a little 2 probes you put up your nose with red light, and it was supposed to shine up to my brain to make me smarter. Right. So I'm like, yeah. Now I think maybe it does something else, that it actually irradiates my blood. It has a very beneficial effect. But my partner, who is now the inventor of this product I'm going to show you, he was just laughing. He's an engineer, and I was shining 5 milliwatt laser diodes up my nose, and he's like, Christian, 5 milliwatts. Do you have any idea how little power that is? So I'm like, oh, no, this works. And he's like, Christian, it's way too little power. So there's actually a divide in the industry. Some people believe you don't need power at all. It's all systemic. It's all field-based. Your body is an interconnected, adaptive organism. So as long as you do the whispering, the rest can cascade by itself. That's one side. The other side is you're full of shit. You need power. This is a cytochrome C oxidase. It's a nitric oxide push. We're going to drive energy into the tissue. That's the power side. And then you have like the weird guys, which we are one of, the weird guys in the middle who say, you know what? I think both is pretty, I think you're right. There's a lot of systemic adaptive regulation going on. However, we also see a huge difference when we can pass that power threshold. And when we pass that and we add frequencies, sort of almost like a language using light, then we see the best results. So we're like part of the weird guys. Yeah, I guess.
So kind of both, like it's not one or the other, but.
Well, we have we have 3 settings. So we have one where we use a lot of it has been researched a lot, but it's still, I would say, up for debate whether or not the frequencies have the effects that we think it has.
Okay.
So we have one near infrared, we have one red, and we have one combining the 2 types of light with all the stochastics and the circadian ramps and like tons of research. We have several PhD guys behind developing just how we shine the light.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, let's see it.
But then 2 years ago. So remember, I was shining the lasers up my nose, and my friend was laughing. But then he came across this NASA study when he was making a device for his wife's liver hep issue, and he started, Christian, this is crazy. So I'm like, yeah, I've been trying to tell you, that theoretically this is awesome. So he's like, okay, let's make some models. So we started ordering samples from China. We had an office up in Hangdong here, working on solar. And the more power we had, the more we could see that people had pain, and the pain went away, and people started walking.
Right.
So it was very, very strange. And I had a solar company here in Chiang Mai. So we were doing installation of solar systems for what I would call relatively wealthy people.
Right.
Most of them were foreigners. Most of them had some issues with health, gout, diabetes, and other lifestyle. So when we had the product in our lab that was like pretty good, I was like, hey, do you wanna come in and try our machine?
Hold on one sec. Somebody's at the door.
Not only somebody.
What'd you get there, Christian? Oh, coffee.
Bulletproof coffee.
Oh, nice.
It's good to be the boss. Yeah. So he started looking at it, and I'm like, yeah. So my customers in the solar company, when they started changing leg color and started walking, and this is something I use when I talk about it. This is actually true. So when I saw the third person walking out of there and like, I'll be there tomorrow morning at 9. We're like, dude, we're an engineering company. We're not I don't care.
Wow.
Then we realized.
And this was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. And we're like, shit. It's a very, very tough industry because for our customers, they have no other interest in life. Those kind of customers. If you're unhealthy, or like if you have that kind of issue, diabetic foot ulcer or something, that's all you think about. To be better, right? So it was tricky from that perspective because the word spread, right? And we can't do that. So we had to say, no, we can't. Right. We're not a treatment. We don't have license or anything.
Right. You were just testing it out on a few people.
Yes. And theoretically, got out like mad. Wow. And so I sat down with Ari and I said, Ari, go home, talk to your wife, tell her goodbye. we're starting a company.
So what did these early devices look like? I'm curious.
They look a little bit like the microphone here.
Okay.
Because we took
was it just
old
one
lamp.
light?
Yeah, it was a round circular like spotlight housing with huge aluminum heat sinks that we refitted with special fans and more heat sink. And we were using different wavelengths of light. So light comes in, especially what we do, we use LEDs. So the stuff that they were doing in NASA and experimenting with many years ago using lasers. So you can imagine there's a price difference. Let's say a laser costs $800, then the LED costs $6. So it's like, it's a huge difference. So we were predicated on the fact that these LEDs just started coming out, powerful enough to drive photobiomodulation, to pass the threshold, the optical window of power. So we found out that, we can get the same effects as they do with a $20,000 laser from a $400 LED thing.
Wow.
And then
you were using the LED and seeing.
Yeah, we used only LED. We never had lasers. Yes. We never used lasers.
Wow. And you'll have to explain, I don't know if you'll get into this, I'm sure, but the difference between the red light and the infrared light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's doing, I mean, for mine, very basic understanding, those are the two different types of light.
Actually, you can, people in light therapy, we call it red light therapy, but I believe it's a marketing word.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's incorrect, but the reason why we say red light therapy, people use UV, they use blue, they use green. Blue has a different, let's say if you want to remove bacteria or bad skin.
Yeah, a lot of times I've seen, I used to be a biohacker tech at Bulletproof Labs, where we had all this biohacking equipment. And one of them was the red charger, the human charger, which is essentially like a tanning bed, but with all these red and infrared lights. And they had, I don't know how many, enough to cover like your entire body.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Like we have down in the
room similar to that one, but it was all red except for the ones on your face. So when you lay down face first, the ones on your face were actually blue. And so that's
like what for cleaning.
You're talking about more like complexion kind of things for your face, I think.
I think it's bacterial.
Bacteria, kills bacteria, I think. Yeah.
So we started, the initial idea was pain management, pain relief, because of what we saw, basically. We have customers with, I can't really say because of FDA approvals and everything. I can just say, let's say there were a lot of people with certain illnesses that is very much correlated with pain in the lower limbs, coming from insulin levels that are hard to manage. And from there, they get some sores that never grow, never heal. And we saw those guys heal.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had the father-in-law of one of our main people here, Australian, 12 years, every week going to the hospital, going to his doctor. Hey, Bob, let's fix the dressing and see you next week. Yeah. After 3 months of this stuff, hasn't seen Bob in a long time.
Put the doctor out of business.
It's crazy.
Not necessarily, but.
No, probably it could be anecdotal.
Right.
I've seen a couple of anecdotal episodes.
That's an interesting point to bring up, because this is where I think a lot of us come from, is going to traditional medicine and seeing that fail in some shape or form, where it's just not working for us. So we have to find something else, right?
So to come to the main point of this, what we discovered, we didn't discover it, what we understood, many people have discovered, is that blood flow is one of the main key elements of all these things. Either your capillaries can't get blood, or you just have so bad blood flow that your body can't produce or can't ship enough nutrients and enough cells to fix issues. So the more chronic something, and once again, this is non-doctor speaking, the more chronic it becomes, the less ability the body has to transport and fix and oxygenate, to really bring nutrients out to the site. But when you introduce something like red light therapy, who the main, like I said earlier, the thing that I can really talk about is reduction of inflammation and increase of circulation. And it comes from vasodilation. So the blood veins becomes bigger. How? Well, the blood veins are constrained by muscles that holds them. It's called the endothelial layer in your bloodstream here. And you can choose to go how deep you want. But basically what happens is that the compounds released from inside your mitochondria and your bloodstream will help dilate the blood vessels, the blood veins, because the endothelial layer, the muscles relax. NO is a muscle relaxant, so nitric oxide. So that's something we should talk about now with the COVID as well. So the nitric oxide is removed from the cytochrome C oxidase in your mitochondria, where it's been blocking some receptors that want to take oxygen out of the air and put it into the fire. Okay. Later I can talk a little bit more detail. But anyway, you shine the light, you have an instant increase in blood flow, circulation. Okay. And that stuff I can talk about without having done a clinical trial on our own product, because this is well-established medical fact.
You mentioned nitric oxide. Yes. So when you're increasing that blood flow with the red light, is that doing something to nitric oxide? It's the nitric oxide pathway to increase blood flow. So what happens is your body, your own body, is poisoning itself with nitric oxide. And poison means basically, according to my humble understanding, it means to impair some kind of function. So a poison is an agent that can impair something or stop something. Okay. So in this case, you have do you know the Krebs cycle? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a little bit, yeah. Yeah. So we eat food so that we can, at a very later stage in the process, donate some electrons into the mitochondria. They have a chain, they're a respiration chain. And in there, the end goal is to make our energy, the ATP. Right? Yep. And you have this first phase and second phase and third phase and fourth phase where the oxygen is going to combine. And in that place, there's some small guys called cytochrome C oxidase. Okay. CCO. Their job is to be docking stations for oxygen. Okay. So the cytochrome C oxidase, they go there and they pick the oxygen, throw it into the fire and make more ATP. The reason why many people this is something Dave Asprey talked a lot about too. Your mitochondrial output is not strong enough. You don't have enough mitochondria. You need some mitogenesis. And your mitochondria is not working well enough. The spinning motor of the mitochondria is not functioning optimally. Right. And red light therapy can increase that like super fast by the waves or particles or fields or whatever you want to call the light that comes in. It interacts and it kicks out the nitric oxide from these holders. So the NO goes here up to your endothelial level, you get better blood flow. And the oxygen, the free radicals basically being caught, put into the fire, and you get a much higher energy output. Did that make a little bit? I mean, that's interesting, like diving deeply into the science and how it works. And so I guess what comes to mind for me is, well, red light therapy is an effective way of doing that. And so basically, for me, it seems like there are other ways to address that as well. Yes. Like, especially with nitric oxide, you can exercise. Yes. Right. You can do breath work.
Yes.
And get some of these similar benefits, right? So
you can do hyperbaric chamber.
Hyperbaric chamber. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there are a lot of different ways to kind of increase blood flow, and it's interesting what you said about nitric oxide. I guess what did you say? Like going bad or stale or?
No, it acts as a poison in your own body because it inhibits the process, the fourth phase of the phosphorylation in the Krebs cycle. So it makes that process less efficient. That's why I call it a poison. And no, it's of course not a poison for your body. It's a very important molecule. Right. But especially the older you get and the more sedative lifestyle, sedative lifestyle, then you're getting into that poisoning, self-poisoning. Right. So that's why the Juve and all these guys, when they show you performance increase and you stand in front of it and all of that is literally. Right. That's why we call our company Recharge. Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because I feel like we're recharging. We're also doing tons of other stuff. We're increasing the cell membrane voltage potential. Okay, anyway, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. Here is the thing. This is the sort of the clinical version. This is the Flexbeam. This is our first recharge product. Yeah. So this thing here is made downstairs in our medical device factory.
Here in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Chiang Mai, Thailand. Hang Dong, Chiang Mai, Thailand. And it's designed all the electronics, all the mechanical, everything is designed in-house here in Thailand. You can see and it's very easy to use. My mom was the test subject. She's more than 80 years old. So you press on. Now I can see we should charge it more. You choose 1, 2, or 3. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and choose 2, the hippie mode.
Hippie mode. All
and then play.
So we should see a bit of a light show.
Yeah. So what you see here, which is, let's see how we can film it.
I think that's...
No, but I want to show something. What you see here, you can see it then. I can show it to Jason. So if you were to guess how many LEDs we have here, how many powerful LEDs do you see?
I see 3 lights.
Yeah.
And now I'm a bit blinded after looking at them.
Yeah, but what you see is the center light, right? You see the center. That's a red light. Mm-hmm. Now this is flickering and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but you can't see it. It's above the photo disassociation. Is that what it's called? The range.
Just what we perceive, right?
Yeah, the flicker rate is higher than what you can perceive.
And all LEDs flicker.
Yeah, no, not necessarily. Not if you drive them full on. You don't have to
really?
flicker. Yeah.
Okay.
You can control the flickering.
Okay.
But you don't want the 40 hertz, the lower. Okay. What you don't see here is that there's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. The 2 LEDs here that you don't see. Mm-hmm. Twice as powerful, each of them, than the one in the center.
Really?
Yeah. So what you see here is 3 lights, but it's actually 3 in each. Near infrared, red, near infrared. You can't see the near infrared. So a typical usage of this product is, let's say, neck pain and shoulder pain and back pain, because it has a muscle relaxant property. It has an anti-inflammatory property. And it increases blood flow.
So I've used this on my shoulder, on my elbows. Yeah.
And put it straight to the body.
You put it directly on the skin.
Yeah.
Right. So on my elbow, I could do something like that.
Yeah.
Wrap it around.
Yeah. That's the unique thing about Flexbeam is it's the versatility with power. So you can hear the fans.
Yeah.
And the reason why we have to use the fans is because we create a hell of a lot of heat that is not coming out here. This is not very hot.
No.
This near infrared and this red is not very hot light. All the heat is going out here. So that was one of the biggest things to tackle when you design a red light therapy product portable.
Yeah, it's not hot. No heat. Cool, man. And so where are you guys at with this? You're selling it, right?
Yes, we have it like a secret web shop invitation only thing now while we practice. So we're gonna launch around 10-15 days from now, actually, our official website.
Okay.
So you can find us at theflexbeam.com. And so we have started putting out some videos, but the real launch will be end of this month.
And you're still doing the crowdfunding?
Well, we're doing a crowdfunding a little bit later.
Okay.
Because with the latest stuff and the research coming out right now on nitric oxide and respiratory health with the current COVID situation, I don't want to have my customers have to wait a month.
Right.
Because I don't know if I told you this, but our research team, they're working on a clinical trial proposal now that we were contacted.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys have seen that. Maybe you want to, do you want to talk about it a little bit? Because I'm interested in hearing what Rosie and Mark thinks about the COVID situation.
So talk about the COVID situation?
Yeah, but I mean, because we were also involved. I'm explaining more about me is not only showing the product, but we are also here in Recharge involved in a ventilator project.
Oh, really?
So we have been working with an international consortium of designers and engineers from Italy and Australia, Holland, Europe, and we were to be the electronics design guys on a ventilator, because numbers of ventilators was the biggest issue, right? You saw Dyson and so many people have been working on this.
Right.
But now over the last week, what's coming out seems to be, it's not an issue of, it's not an issue of not enough ventilators. It seems that the issue is not forced ventilation.
That's the latest I saw.
Yeah, they put them into the ICU, but they still die.
Right.
Why? Because forced ventilation doesn't seem to work. And it's not my opinion. Of course, I have no opinion about this. I'm just saying this is the latest stuff. So we were invited into this clinical trial because guess what they figured out?
Blood. It's in the blood.
It's in the circulation. Right. It's in the microcirculation. What you're seeing on the MRIs are microthrombosis. And what can fix that? Increased nitric oxide, increased microcirculation, increased blood flow.
Yeah, I've seen some of this.
And it's like, so we were contacted by stem cell research and from a very big American association, as you probably will know. I can't talk about it now, but they were proposing to use hyperbaric chambers, IV ozone in situ at the hospital, and then photobiostimulation, photobiomodulation at the hospital, but also at home afterwards.
Okay, these must be some very progressive hospitals, I would imagine, if they're using IVs and ozone. Plus
sure, this is the anti-aging top degenerative medicine. This is these are the doctors that how to say the rich people go to.
Concierge medicine, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can go to Bangkok now. If you just pay $100,000, you can get your own stem cells done. And they fly you in here, and you get a Breitling watch after you walk out. This stuff happens down here. And the reason why we were so excited about that is because it's not that many red light products that is powerful enough and that you can bring home. Look in the marketplace.
So what's happening if, they put people on the ventilators and then they're still not getting better.
Yeah.
And they're thinking
because it's not about forcing oxygen into the lungs. It's about having tissue ready to accept oxygen, to be oxygenated. Once again, I might say this wrong, but that's the whole clue here. It's not about forcing oxygen in there. It's about the oxygen intake of the tissue.
Right.
So that's why hyperbaric, because you're like pushing oxygen into the tissue. Nitric oxide is released by stimulation. And this is, let's say, a $500 product. You give that to each patient instead of a 20,000 ventilator that you have to be using, or the big panels.
Right.
So
you're actually going to do studies on this for COVID. Somebody is potentially.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
We were invited. And the paper is being, I think, concluded today or tomorrow, because this is very, very rush.
Wow.
And we are. And we're talking in America now with a fantastic, exciting organization. Because of all these findings, we are being contacted by not only the progressive guys, but now we're being contacted by people working with veterans in your country. Through very large veterans hospitals. I don't want to name names, but I guess
wow.
And so I'm looking into a thing where we can make this guy in America by veterans for veterans.
Wow.
So to use the situation, this is a wellness product, helps your immune system, helps your way of staying fit kind of thing. It's like a little thing you can have at home and your whole family can use it.
Right.
And so I think it's much more likely that people will buy this kind of stuff than a new Walkman or a new, Walkman, I guess.
Walkman.
I'm old.
Your earbuds, I guess, your Bluetooth earbuds.
Yeah, something like that. I think people will look a little bit more into.
Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating because I see this, I guess, in terms of like the whole coronavirus situation. I would think of this as more like, yeah, it helps boost my resilience, my immune system. But what I'm hearing is there's the potential to use this actually as an intervention once you get COVID, which to me is fascinating.
For me too. Like what I said, is a clinical trial, so we cannot say that it's a intervention or anything like that. You just use logic.
I'm just saying there's the potential.
Yes. So if you read what they find, you read about red light therapy. You don't have to be a genius to say that seems like something we should try.
So a potential parallel that comes to mind is Wim Hof, and this guy has been thought of as like a freak of nature because they've injected him with, I think it was an E. coli endotoxin. And they watched under clinical supervision as he actually fought that off using what he would say is the power of his mind and his breath work, right? And so he walked away from that and they said, okay, this guy's a freak of nature. And he said, no, like I can train people to do this. And he did. He went off for the next couple of weeks, trained 10 people, brought them back into the clinic, injected them all with the endotoxin plus 10 control subjects. I feel bad for them because they didn't have the training to deal with it. Yeah. But yeah, like the conclusion was that the 10 subjects who did the breathwork training were able to fight off E. coli, which in light of, I mean, it's bacterial infection, viral infection are different. But I think there's something to that. And I think, red light therapy.
But I think what he was doing was calling his own adrenaline forward kind of thing. Isn't that what they concluded with right now?
I think so. Yeah. So he was.
But I do my body shot. We have a full body. We have this guy. This is like a commercial product that we're going to sell to people. But we, like I said, we made samples over many years. So we have tons of these light sources. So we put them together and made a stand-up wall so we can stand in front of. Yep. And all my guys, we do 5 to 10 minutes every day with near infrared shower, basically.
Yeah.
That's from that purpose.
Yeah.
Increase oxygenation. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So what else? I mean, what else is exciting that you're working on that you can share about research?
Well, the other thing is very exciting. So Flexbeam is now around the world as samples, and we have influencers and affiliates, and that's like a soon go. But we are in the final phases of product development of the Brain Beam, which is basically using near infrared light. So we think V-light in a form factor that doesn't make you look like a terminal ill patient. Using the same ideas, I've been following Liu, the guy behind V-light, when he did his studies in Canada before, and he was publishing a lot of what he could see in changes in the brain based on using near infrared.
Right.
So I had that in mind for a long time, and then suddenly he came out with his own product after his first trials because it was so dramatic results. So yeah, so the guy who's behind V-light is the guy who is the researcher that was researching it. So he's like, shit, and he got funding immediately. But we're coming out with a little bit of a different approach, much more user-friendly, much more looks less engineer developed. So we have industrial medical design engineers that works with form factors and human-centric design.
And so I'm curious, how is this different than the Flexbeam?
Form factor primarily.
And you're using it on your head.
On your, yeah,
right?
you're using it on your head. So in this case, we're shining light on the frontal lobes here. We're shining light on the side here. We're shining light on this area here. And we're shining light amygdala style back here. So because of form factor and time to market, we will most likely not shine light on the top here. There's a couple of reasons. Engineering wise, it takes a lot. If you want to go from just shining here and shining up here, mechanically speaking, there's a lot of engineering. It's going to take time. Number two, we were talking with researchers, and the effect of adding up here, yes, it's better, but compared to not having any device for your head in terms of Alzheimer's or these kind of diseases, to have something going here, great improvement. So yes, maybe it will be even better if you can shine something up here.
Right.
But that for us will be for a later, I want to have something that people actually want to use.
And so the idea behind this is on the head, it's more for brain and cognitive.
Only,
function,
right? It's blood flow.
Blood flow to your brain versus muscles and joints and that sort of thing, right? So, so like this, I can put.
You can theoretically put this to your head too. This is very powerful though.
Why not just put it on here?
You can, but the hair, your hair, I don't know if you have much hair, but
I don't have much hair.
No, okay, so for you, this is fine.
Maybe this would work for me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sarah is using it every day.
They say actually a friend of mine got one of these red light helmets. A biohacker friend who was here in Chiang Mai, and he was losing his hair, much younger than me. He's like, I was like, well, is it working? He's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's working, but I've seen studies where they say that it helps hair growth.
Yeah.
The red.
Well, our CTO has no hair, and he's been using it every day for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Ain't seen much hair growth. So I know that they talk about that it exists, but that's not what we do. We work with blood flow in the brain.
Right.
Yeah. Listen to the experts. They say, well, it all starts with the blood flow.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. We have tons of other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
But I think
yeah, we've got a few minutes left. If you can leave us with like what's your daily routine? Like what do you do to charge yourself up and keep going through the day? I mean, you mentioned some things, but I'm curious if you can take us through that. That'd be cool.
Okay, how long time do you have?
10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm a biohacker like you, I guess you can say. I start my day when the light shines through the curtains around a little bit, 6-ish. I used to start earlier. I used to start about 4:30. But I realized that was probably not so good. And then some famous guy on YouTube confirmed that. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm not a bad person because I don't wake up 4:30.
Well, that makes sense to me because the sun's not even up yet. So why would I be awake?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I come from that background. I'm the hardest working man in freaking showbiz. I don't care. So I stopped that. I wake up at 6. I go out. I pour myself a big glass of water, pretty much this size. So Rosie, of course, structured through the hydrophilic buckyballs contained inside this non-action water filter. And in there I put apple cider vinegar, some sea salt, some potassium, and some organic lime. And I drink that, and that acts as my personal enema, I guess you call it, or the opposite.
Oh, opposite.
Reversed. So then I go to toilet, same time every day.
Okay, so you said enema because it helps you.
Yeah, well,
go to the bathroom.
Yes, but I also use the squatty potty at the bathroom. So the bathroom trip is very quick, a couple of minutes. Then I make my bulletproof coffee. And then I sit in the sun for about 1 hour reading books. No screen yet. No screen yet because I know I'm going to have like 14, 15 hours of screen. So I want to start the day by getting enough sunshine, trying to have a reasonable conversation with my kids before they say I talk too much. Which I probably do. Yeah, and then I work, but I work here, as you see. So we have a lot of light.
Right.
I drive an electric car down to my work, and I don't eat anything yet. So I'll have my second Bulletproof when I get here. So I do Bulletproof, but less butter and oil in each, maybe half a spoon.
Okay.
So because my theory is that since I have a constant drip of bile, I can handle smaller bouts of fat instead of the big one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I go home for lunch. My wife cooks me. I live on a farm. So we grow our own food and have our own chickens and all that kind of stuff. So I eat food at home with my family every day for lunch. And then I drive my little car back to work, and I stay here until 6. During that time, I normally have some dark chocolate to keep me fueled.
Right.
Another Bulletproof. So I'm going probably like 3 of them.
With caffeine at night?
Yeah. No, well, I stop at like 3.
Oh, at 3. Okay.
And the Bulletproof.
Gotcha.
And then dinner at 6, pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess same as you, low carb, high fat. I also don't eat the local produce when it comes to meat. So I don't have any of the joint pains or anything that I used to have. So we have our own ducks that we kill and eat, and Paleo Robbie and Passion Delivery, Sloan Bacon, Chiang Mai Smokehouse, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I eat meat.
Okay.
But I don't eat the meat CP stuff.
Right. Right.
And then I do every day. This one, I won't show it too long. Just a little teaser. This is my neuroplastic change or brain exercise. So I exercise my brain every day, and I'm using the sensory pathway. In particular, I'm using a light and sound device to train my brain. It's called brain engagement. Then I have a skateboard ramp inside my office, a big one, because I also like to push myself, and I believe in, I at least used to believe in, I think I still believe in flow state. But I went really into it, the Kotler stuff and the 4% over your max ability. And all. So that's, part of the big ramp with big view was that I worked so much. So I wanted to keep my flow state. And then you have to go and do something very difficult, preferably a little bit dangerous, in a very beautiful, big nature.
Right.
That's like the fourth phase, right? When you can go back and do difficult stuff.
Right.
I don't know if I really believe that anymore, but that's the... So I had skateboarding, and I found out that skateboarding is the optimal way of training the brain. It's like, the Black Swan. Have you read that book?
No.
Talib Nasser is a really good book. So I think skateboarding for me is the same.
I know you're familiar with Dr. Jack Kruse.
Yes.
He calls himself a black swan in his group Black Swan.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if that's the same reference.
It's probably the same reference. So I would say skateboarding for me is perfect brain training, unless you have a black swan event, which is hitting your head on the coping or something like that, right? So until you hit your head on the coping, skateboarding is fantastic. You build BDNF. It's dangerous. It's muscles. It's motion. It's beautiful. It's all these things at once. Yeah. So unless you hit your head, I think it's a brilliant brain training. I exercise now only once a week, muscles. So I do the Body by Science protocol. We have developed an app for that, so I can time it and everything.
Can you explain the Body by Science real quick?
Yes, I can. Body by Science was developed by 2 doctors, I think maybe 20 years ago, Little and McGuff. And they were serious researchers. McGuff was an emergency room doctor, but always interested in physical exercise and training. So they came up with the idea that, or they didn't come up with the idea. I guess they continued research and sort of proved, scientists have shown that you can get the same muscle growth from doing 10 minutes of hardcore exercise, what they call high intensity resistance training per week, as I was getting from 1 hour a day, right? So I was in the middle of my biohacker sort of. I'm less of a biohacker now. Before I was even more like, I'm a biohacker, yeah, fuck yeah. So I found out this, I can change 1 hour of weights every day to 10 minutes a week And then I can replace that 1 hour by a Thai language lesson. Because then I can increase my brain and learn a new language. So I did that. And over a year, my Thai got so much better. I have a teacher come every day to our office up there.ตอนนี้พูดได้เขียนได้อ่านได้ด้วย And I did it. So that was a biohacking thing, right? I wanted to prove that, cool. You can improve your time efficiency.
I've been struggling with my Thai, and maybe I need to do that, some kind of trade-off where I become more efficient and then free up some time. But it's really just a matter of making the time.
Yes. But it sounded so cool. It was so, for me, it's like,
cool. Yeah, that is cool. So flexing the brain muscle instead of the body muscle on a daily basis, right?
Way more important than anything else. What's the difference? Why do you sit here? What's the only thing that's standing between us and living out there?
I don't know.
It's this guy, right? This is the wealth. This is my bank account. And not only that, this is my whatever pension fund investment you have in America. This is everything I have. So that's why I'm doing that.
Yeah. Investing in yourself.
Yeah, I'm not that strong. I'm not that resilient in lifting things outside, So the one thing I have is my brain.
Right.
So I'm going to keep that.
That's cool. Cool, man. Very cool. So you mentioned you have your own farm, you have ducks, different food. So what's like your favorite meal? If you were to choose one.
I would say right now, my favorite meal is sandwich.
The one you make downstairs?
Yes.
That one?
Yes, the one I get downstairs because I do the intermittent fasting and I stopped eating bread for many years, right?
Right.
And now they found this sourdough bread, homemade sourdough. And I don't have the...
Who makes the sourdough?
I think it's the French bakery, the French guy.
Interesting. Okay.
Lana Bakery.
Okay.
Really good sourdough. And I don't get the bloating. I don't get any problems with the stomach. And I do intermittent fasting. So I sit there and I'm pretty freaking hungry, right? And this thing comes out with a pulled duck confit from our own duck with the rocket and it's bread that I sort of can't eat, but I can eat it now. Yeah, I think that's my favorite. But I have many other favorites, but that's right now.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's hard to beat.
Cool. Sounds delicious. Well, I haven't eaten today, so now I'm like super hungry.
I'm hopefully getting that lunch soon.
But yeah, let's see. I think we got a chat message here. There was a comment that CPAP machines would be as good as ventilators. Oh, going back to the ventilators for coronavirus. That's an interesting one.
What's a CPAP?
So CPAP is continuous, I forget what the acronym is, but it's people who have sleep apnea, put the device over their face and it delivers oxygen throughout the night while you're sleeping, right? It's actually called APAP, or the newer machines. It's an automatically delivering oxygen. So I guess that's an interesting one.
Yeah, but it still matters with the uptake, right? Tissue uptake.
Right. So
on Monday, or maybe you want to be on Monday, I'm going to do an interview with our chief medical officer, our chief research officer, and this other group that contacted us. I'm going to do an interview to talk to them about what they're working on. I mean, I can't let this... I have to do whatever I can to publicize it, right?
Yeah.
As the boss of the company here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit, should I fly to Norway? And I have to work on the stock price. And it's like crazy, right?
Oh, man.
CPAP.
All right, guys. So we're almost at the time. So 2 more minutes. So yeah, thank you, Rosie, Mark, for sharing. Really appreciate it. We do the biohacking meetup so far, going strong, mostly strong for, I think we're on, this is meeting number 41.
Hey.
So we've done 41 of these. So thank you for joining. I mean, the way to reach out to us. Oh, we have somebody joining a little late. Interesting.
30 seconds.
Whoever Eric is. But yeah, as we sign out, we get another member joining. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me specifically, you can find me on Facebook, Jason Ryer. My brand is Zen Strength. If you want to reach out to Christian, here in Hangdong, there's Recharge. In light of the situation, I don't think a lot of people are coming here. But
you'll be surprised.
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, excellent question, which I forgot in my first interview when I did with some dude. That's such a good question. You can find me on Twitter @/Christian Barmen.
Okay.
And we have a website for this one, the flexbeam.com. Theflexbeam.com.
Theflexbeam.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Recharge in general, we are on personalrecharge.com.
Personalrecharge.com.
Yeah, that's more of the company page. The flexbeam.com is our campaign page.
Okay.
And we're on Facebook and Instagram. And now, yesterday, I published our podcast. Mm-hmm. So now that's should be on iTunes and what's that other guy?
Stitcher,
SoundCloud,
Android,
Spotify.
Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do we find that one? What's the name?
The name of the podcast is Recharge Your Body.
Recharge Your Body. Cool.
So you have 41, I have 1.
Yeah. All right. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll sign out now. Appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.